There it is. All right. So I'll do it the hard way, since let's see what I can get out of this. All right. Now cover this back up, because anytime that you're working with this stuff, you want to keep it as wet as you can. Now on this, cement board, it's going to dry out faster than it would on something else. So I'm not really going to wedge it. I'm just going to pound it around, because if I wedge it on this, then it's going to get even drier. So I'm just going to start with a rectangular shape. So you kind of want to have a good firm table to work on, or even if you have a clean space on a concrete floor somewhere, you can do that too, as long as it's not picking up a lot of dirt. Now I'm going to start flattening it out a little bit. I don't want it to get more this way. I want to stretch it out more that way, I think. Let's see. That's a piece of my email. That's what I hate about this. Like, you get all these emails and everybody knows people are online, but man, that's interrupting. See how I'm just pick it up and drop it on the end and sort of pull it towards me? It starts to stretch it out. If it you can tap a little bit, keep it a little more even. I'll switch it. You'll kind of get the hang of it pretty quickly. It's not, I'm not slamming it down, right? You can see it's cracking, and that's fine. I'll fix that. I got an easy fix for that. Big holes are bad, but small ones not too much. And that's just really that one right there. That, if you can see that, that's basically from an air bubble that was in there. A little out of practice with this, but all right. So that's mostly even. Now you can work it like you can get a pretty nice thin slab, which I like to work with, especially if you're making mugs. So a mug, you don't want a real thick slab unless you're going to be carving into it and cutting away from it. So now, oops. Hey, we all make mistakes. Right? Now I'm going to get a piece of newspaper. And so wherever you're going to work, you're going to need water, right? I like to use a bigger bucket, but I mean, whatever you got, any tool that I'm going to clean off, any tool I'm going to use needs to be kind of washed off in whatever bucket you have, right? Because that's all the clay's going in there. If your clay's going in your sink, then you're doing some bad things to your plumbing. So don't do it, right? So clean it in there, and then when you're finished, go toss it out in the yard or in the street, wherever. All right, now I need some tools. So like I told you guys the other day, like one of these cards works great for a rib. So I want to get some water on this thing too. So I'm gonna take a sponge, and you can get real cheap sponges at the grocery store, and they work just as well as something like this. I want to get some water on here before I start to fix it. Just makes it easier to creates a little slip, and some of those cracks start to disappear. So I've just covered the whole thing. Now get this a little bit wet. Now I'm going to start working. You can try to work the higher parts down first until it gets pretty even. And that clay that comes off, you can fill in some of these bigger holes. That's why I said I wasn't too worried about it when I was doing it. You start to make them disappear. And I'll do this on the other side too. So your slab, I mean, these are going to be good slabs. So it's actually, I like doing this better than throwing it through a slab roller, because that just stretches them out real quick. And I mean, it's convenient, but it's also, you know, not as good for the clay, like, because I can rotate this around and stretch it in different directions. I'm going to hang on to some of that. And I've changed directions too, because some of those cracks are formed one way and some are formed the other. Whoops. It is Monday. I didn't use a ton of water either, so you don't want to saturate your clay. You just want to let the tool work on it smoothly. Because this stuff's nice and slippy, right? So it really kind of fills in pretty well. It does take some time, but it's worth it. Normally I don't use a rib that's as flexible as this. If you have a putty knife works great. It's my favorite tool. This is the one I usually use, which is this thing, right? It just has no handle on it. Because this one is stiff and doesn't bend. And I don't have to get this side perfect yet, right? I can get it close enough. You can get it where there's no tool marks on there. It's good. All right, now I'm gonna flip it over. So I just pick up the paper so I can get my hands under there. There we go. Do the same thing on this side, get some water on here. I'm gonna try to work a little faster so we're not just all doing this. You guys don't want to talk to me? Too quiet. What'd you do this weekend?
This weekend I went camping.
You went camping? Where'd you go?
Yes. This place called Max Patch. It was so pretty.
Yeah? Where is that?
It's like 3 hours away. Where's Max Patch? It's near Asheville.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I had to pack all this stuff up a mountain.
Yeah. So did you hike in or did you car camp?
We hiked it.
Yeah, how long a hike was it?
It was only like half a mile, so it wasn't really
Okay.
hard. But just we had all our stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a couple of like 10-mile backpacking.
10 miles.
Yeah.
So long.
But you can really get to some pretty remote places that way.
Yeah, for sure.
But that was back before I was old. Now I just car camp. I have kids, you know. You tend to have more stuff that goes with you.
Yeah, like a month ago I did it. It was just car camp. Like, it was
Yeah.
new. And I got to see like app and stuff, like app state.
Yeah. So the like as far as like car camping can be good if you're in a cool place because you can do day hikes and like you can hike as much as you want and go around and see a lot of things.
Yeah, that's what we needed. We went on like, I forget what it was called, but we went on one day hike and then we saw like the long falls. So
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, this is looking much better now. All right, can you guys even see how smooth that is right now? Probably not. That's why I don't like. I mean, you can maybe see it better from when I put this demo online, if I can do that today. At the end, like you can wring out your sponge a little bit, so it's a little bit, and take some of that extra water off. Mostly the tool will do the job. So a lot of times when you guys were making stuff with slabs, like a long time, like when you were beginners, like you didn't do much to the slab until it was made into a pot. But you can definitely add texture and things like that to slabs before you do that. You know, like before you actually form it. You know, you can put all kinds of texture on there. I don't know that I'm going to do that. I'm just get it smooth. But I like using, like I use them for like the oval pots that I make on the wheel without, you know, bottoms. Like all the bottoms are slabs. So I'll do this and then I'll start to make, you know, some kind of design or some kind of pattern on there. Sometimes they're more geometrical, but they're all pretty loose. And then I just kind of smooth down those edges. And that would make a interesting mug. So even if I did a cylinder, which is the easiest thing to do, right, I'd still try to, you know, cut it so that I've got a nice rectangle. Always cut it before you wrap it around, and you don't want like tops, bottoms, edges all crooked, right? So you want things to be straight. How would you cut it? I mean, if you have a knife, that would work. You know, this thing could work too. I mean, it's not ideal, but let's cut a few things off of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this.
Wait, when you were smoothing this stuff earlier, were you using a credit card?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's a it's like an old gift card or it's a Dave and Buster's card. I don't know why I have a Dave and Buster's card, but I have one somewhere. But yeah, it definitely works. So then I can determine the height of my mug, you know, this way. So now this is, and this is going to be, you know, a rectangle is what's going to work, right? And I can only use straight parts. So I'm using that same card, and also don't use your mom's Visa card, right? Anything that you use, if you use something like this, make sure it's an old gift card that has nothing left on it, right? Or a Starbucks card, something that's not, something that has expired, okay? I'm gonna be very clear about that. Make sure it has expired. All right, so I can also use this part right here as my base. So this bigger part, this could be a good base. So now you can see that texture on there, right? Sort of. And I can build this with a form if I have one that's round, like big enough around for what I want. This is a big mug, right? But it can also just kind of shape it. Now it's gonna not exactly be as round as I want it, but you can also like these two ends are a little thinner, so I can overlap them and make it about as thick as this, which is, you know, that thickness right there. That's a good thickness. I mean, you can make them a little thinner for your mugs, but that's a pretty, you know, if you're making a pot out of this, this is a good way to go. I don't want to finish that because I'd rather show you something else, right? Something a little more complicated. I just wanted to show you how to do the slabs, really. You don't have to put the texture on them, right? You can if you want, but then, you know, you got to have a base, so you want to have your base and cut it. And same thing, like if you have cans or things like this laying around that you can wrap in newspaper, you can roll the slab on there so that it'll be nice and round. So you can use a form if you have stuff laying around, like a tin can or something. You know, hit your recycling bin and see what's in there. You know, you might find some good things to use. Any form will work as long as it's not. If you're gonna remove the form, you need the bigger end at the top, right? So that the form comes out. If you have the big end at the bottom and you try to pull the form out, it's not gonna come out. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're doing more complicated shapes, you can make a template with paper. Okay, so let's try something. Let me get some scissors. All right, where are they? Just cut a piece of paper. Oh, it's good to work with paper with clay on your hands. So really any paper will work. If I fold it in half, move some of this out of the way. So I'm gonna take this because it's round, and I'm gonna put it halfway. Marker, pencil, whatever you want to use. And I'm going to trace that. Okay. So ideally when I cut this, it'll be a circle, right? Now, if I didn't get it exactly halfway, which I probably didn't, you can always trim some off the edges. Now I'm going to make another circle on the inside. So I think this will probably do. And this will determine kind of the thickness of the slab, like how wide it is. This is going to end up being kind of small, but it's okay. It's more about you getting the idea, right? Okay, so now I have that shape. So now I can take my scissors and cut that out. Yeah, it's going to be crooked. You can play around with these paper forms. Not that any of you did any of this last spring, but I did do a little demonstration like with cups, like cutting paper and stuff. That could be translated into this. All right, so now it's almost a circle. It's more like an O, right? So this, if that fits on there, I can trace that onto my slab. But what I really want to do is cut some away. I'm going to cut off about 2 inches. See what happens. So now I have this. And it's once you get this shape, like you get the shape that you want, right? You can trim away the excess. You can tape it together or just hold it, right? I can cut some of this away. Right, so now I know that if I have this, right, if I line these two pieces up, I can have a circle that comes up at an angle, right? So it could be like this, or it could be like that, right? That gives you a different form. You could have several of these, right, and stack them, right? Have one like this on top, and then one open up, and that would make a funky kind of mug shape. All right, so now you can take this and put it on your clay and trace it out. You can use a dull pencil or something will work. I'm just, because I have it, a pen tool, a nail will work. And you can use the same pattern like over and over to, if you're doing more of them, to stack. Right, now I can cut these out. If you have an X-Acto knife at home, it works. I mean, they're a little thin to cut like really wet clay, but if you have it, you can use it. Just don't like dig into anything, like especially if you're working on a wooden table. That's not a good idea. Any knife will do. Plastic knife, plastic forks, those are good things to have. Of course, I cut that badly. Cut small pieces off at a time. Kind of helps. All right, so now I have that same shape in clay. All right, I can wrap it around until I have my circle. Can trim a little bit off, right? But then you can see how it makes that shape. Now, in order to keep that shape, it's got to be a little drier before you stick another one on there, right? If you're gonna do a reverse and then an open up one, like you can do that, then you can put it on a base, right? You just got to clean up this, but you want this to be at least stiff enough so it supports the next piece, right? But not too stiff, because you don't want these things to dry out. So, I mean, my suggestion is to work, try to work on like one mug a day until you get them done, right? Or I mean, if you have plenty of time, I mean, you can do it. You can set them out in the sun if there is any. You use a hair dryer, anything you have that can help get it a little drier in order to put them together. Just don't overdo it, because this is the clay you have right now for this project, and you should have enough to do the 4 mugs, right, for a mug set. It just depends, you have to kind of judge your size a little bit, right? They don't need to be giant, beer mugs or something, Just good sized coffee mugs. You should have plenty of clay to do that with, right? You guys have any questions so far? Nothing? What about all you guys with your camera off? You paid attention at all? Eli is trying to get in.
Do we start?
Do you start? You can start. I mean, you don't have to do it right away, but I mean, if you have a plan, right, and you want to show me that plan, I can help you like figure out what's the best way to start here. Is it slab? I don't know. I mean, it may not be. I like slabs because I can control them a little better than coils, but some of you may like to work with coils better. If you're rolling on coils, you probably want, you want to have a big enough space to make nice coils. Don't make them super thick, right? But then on the other end, don't make like little bitty worm-like things, right? So somewhere in between, okay? The thicker it is, the more you're gonna have to trim away. And it kind of depends on what kind of shape you're working on. That's up to you guys. But like I said, I couldn't get into Canvas, so I couldn't look at what you uploaded for that assignment, the sketchbook assignment. But remember to score and slip everything. So if I'm using this, use a plastic fork, works great. Score it, slip it, attach it, and set it aside. Work on another piece. You can use the same pattern, make another piece. I'm not saying that you guys have to make this particular way, but I'm just showing you a different way that I haven't shown you before, right? And I don't want just straight cylinders either. And as far as handles go, like handles, I can show you those tomorrow. Okay, so I would just start working on bases, like the actual base of the pot, and then I'll do a handle demonstration tomorrow. And that one will be short, and mostly or not tomorrow, but you guys are every other day. So mostly on Wednesday I'll show you handles, and anything else that comes up that I need to show somebody, I can do it while you're working, and I can kind of see what you're doing. Okay, so today I've used up more of the time, like just showing you how to do some of these things. But Wednesday you're going to be doing most of the work, and I'll show you a few things as needed. Okay. How am I doing on time? What time is it? Nobody knows? 'Cause I can't see my clock.
It's
11:09.
11:05.
And we're out of this class at 11:45, right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna. I want to see what you guys are doing, and so I'm gonna wash my hands, move my computer around. So I'm gonna stop this.